Good morning and welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joni Seymour and I am the Chief Innovation Officer for the Oklahoma Department of Transportation and the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. It is a pleasure to have you join us for Oklahoma Transportation Research Day. This room is full, both physically and virtually online, of academics, consultants, students, and fellow state employees. Thank you all so much for coming. We have an exciting day planned for you, from student posters to demos and informational presentations around research activities, to a look into ODOT's revamped Engineer Intern Program later this afternoon. We hope everything you see today inspires you to further your knowledge of transportation research and sparks interest in the future needs that this research could potentially provide solutions to. I have a few housekeeping items for you before we get started. The restrooms are located across from the registration table, if you haven't found those yet. The Wi-Fi password, you're going to use NI Events Management Wi-Fi, and the password is OKTranspo24. If you have any issues connecting to the Wi-Fi, please see registration. As far as parking, you were provided a coupon in the materials you received when you registered. If you have not entered that code out at one of the parking lots, you'll want to do that soon so that you are not given a ticket by campus security. And if you have any issues with your code, please see registration. All right. This will be your shortest opening remarks in history. There are multiple facets of transportation beyond roads and bridges, and there is so much more research that we can be doing across these areas. And no one knows that better than our esteemed keynote speaker. Dawn Sullivan is the Deputy Director for the Department of Transportation and has over 35 years with ODOT. She currently leads all administrative areas of the agency, as well as planning, government affairs, and the multimodal programs of rail, public transit, and waterways. Dawn earned her Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from the University of Oklahoma and has been an Oklahoma Registered Professional Engineer since 1995. Please join me in welcoming Dawn to the podium this morning.
So I was told I have to fill 30 minutes. Sorry about that. My apologies in advance. No, honestly, I am thrilled to be here amongst friends. I look out in the, you're not wrong, Joni, that's tough. I know a lot of you, familiar faces, colleagues, and friends. Excuse me while I strangle this thing. I don't think that's gonna work. We'll try this direction. How's that? Is that better? Okay, that'll work. Where was I? Opening remarks. Okay, I am happy to be here with you today at this new venue to Oklahoma Transportation Research Day. I was on the agenda to discuss the value of research back in 2006 with my esteemed colleague, and now I call him my friend, the quitter, retiree David Streb, who went before me as a planning and research engineer before an esteemed career at ODOT. So we were both on the agenda in 2006. And at that research day was billed as the 30th anniversary of Transportation Research Day. And I do have an engineering degree, so I can do math. Not in my head, however. So that makes this the 48th anniversary of Transportation Research Day, if my math suits me. Now, I don't know if there was a COVID year. Can anybody remember, did we do it in 2020? I don't. Okay, so we can say the streak is alive. We did it in 2020. I know I blocked it out, but the rest of us, 48 years of sharing transportation research here in Oklahoma. I think that's spectacular. So needless to say, Research Day has been around a while. I still remember my first Research Day. I was an EIT on rotation, and everybody, you know, I think if it was happening and you were an EIT, you got to go to Research Day. Now, picture this, it's 1991. The commission room was covered in red carpet and red theater folding chairs. Who remembers the red folding chairs? Okay, yeah, there's a few of us old folks around still. The room was much smaller than it is today, and definitely not nearly as decorative and nice. But, you know, a lot has changed since that little homegrown Transportation Research Day event. And again, here we are perhaps 48 years later, if our records are correct. But I have got a lot of old dear friends here and a lot of new faces as well. So again, welcome. And I hope you will indulge me as I venture, I would say, down memory lane for me because of that tenure at ODOT. My actual years, I'm coming up on 36 and a half, 37 in May. So I've seen a few of these, and I have a perspective that I'd like to share. So I think it's important to know where we came from, of course, to appreciate where we are, and to really know where we want to go. I'm a pack rat. Not a hoarder, that's rude, not a hoarder, a pack rat. I have Code of Federal Regulations on my bookshelf in my office that I've collected over the years. And I actually, because other people at ODOT are pack rats too, I actually have them back to 1977. Now, I was not at ODOT in 1977, but the Highway Research Program is outlined in that Code of Federal Regulations, referred to as the Research and Development Program. And the work deemed eligible in that volume was anything necessary in connection with the planning, design, construction, and maintenance of highways and highway systems, and the regulation and taxation of their use. That was from the public law that was passed in 1973. So research has been around for a long while in the transportation world. And the research program requirements have been in every transportation bill passed before that and since that time, all the way to our current IIJA bill that was passed into law in November of 2021. So in the United States, the Federal Transportation Bill refers to the multi-year funding bills that authorizes the expenditure of the federal dollars on our surface transportation programs. Now, these include all the way back in my tenure, the Surface Transportation and Uniform Relocation Act back in 1987, all the way through, again today, I could list them all, I won't bore you, but let me tell you, I'm on my 8th transportation bill, and we're actually prepping for the 9th in our work in other state DOTs around the country, AASHTO, looking at our priorities moving forward. You know, research will still be a priority in the next federal authorization bill, I can promise you. As an engineer in training, I rotated through research, and at that time, it was a good-sized division within ODOT. There were a handful of engineers, that maybe, I think at least 6. There were EITs that were assigned. Those engineers were managing research projects, performing in-house research. We had technicians and specialists who were operating equipment and doing data collection and helping in that effort. So a lot of in-house research was what that world looked like back in the late 80s to early 91. In 2000, I became involved in the research program as an assistant in the planning division, assistant division engineer in the planning division. At the time, it merged with research because at that point, ODOT has organizational challenges and changes, and we go through them periodically. I think every organization has to stretch and grow and adapt. And that's what we've done multiple times. But in about the 2000s, that was the era where research and planning merged. And, you know, back at that time, we did contract research with the universities. There was an agreement that was commonly referred to, and some of my colleagues will laugh, it was referred to as the 1982 Basic Research Agreement. And this was in 2000. And it was still referred to as the 1982 Basic Research Agreement because that's pretty much probably the last time it had been changed. Well, things were different now because we know we needed more resources brought to bear. ODOT, through its reorganization, through its reimagination, recognized the need to rely more heavily on our university partners at OU, OSU, and even private sector to step into that role and do more of that work. So just to be clear, the ODOT's research program is funded with our Federal Highway Administration funds. Federal Highway is our partner in research. Do I have any Federal Highway folks in the room? All right. Thank you. Is that Wasim? Yes. Hello, Wasim. Thank you for being here. So Federal Highway is our partner in our Federal Highway Research Program. That pot of money is referred to as the State Planning and Research, or SPR funds. Research has had many names through the years. Sometimes I reference the research and development name. Then you hear research, development, and technology transfer. That was a popular name. Research and implementation was a name that we've given research. And now I would say research and innovation are going together. So depending on what time frame you looked at and what the emphasis was, research has gone by a lot of names. The names have changed, and so have the projects and the efforts. I'd like to contrast a little bit about the early days of research, at least my early days of research, to today. ODOT's research program back then, under that, let's say the 82 Basic Research Agreement, and then following into, I don't have historic records of the staffing back that long ago into the 80s and 90s, but I think it looked a lot like how it did what I described in that late 80s and 91. A large division, standalone with administration and management and engineers and EITs. So by the time I was placed in that leadership position in planning and research, the program was growing, but ODOT's staff was shrinking. Our workforce in 1991 was 32, let me say it with the 1,000, 3,223 employees. So we were a large state agency. Tried and true programs were developed and delivered through that research program, like the herbicide research program, the roadside vegetation management and training that ODOT and our maintenance forces have relied on for decades to keep us up on the latest products, the proper and safe application and effective use of those products. So most of the research in that day was focused on improving existing use methods or developing new testing and specifications, perfecting processes and methods for the Oklahoma version of the world, and trying new technology. Sometimes it wasn't quite ready for prime time, but that's where we were focused, much more on the highways and improving the stuff and how we did the stuff. A sampling from the early 2000s included evaluation of rutting potential of hot mix asphalt using the asphalt pavement analyzer. That was Dr. Zaman's research in 2002. So we have a well-established colleagues who are still with us today who've been working in our research program for a long time. Another one was methodology for determining the impact of highway bypasses in Oklahoma. That's one that we get asked about still today. Another example, evaluation of silica fume high-density thin bonded overlays. You see the theme here that while we did have some variation, it was still focused on a lot of very practical real-world examples. The workforce in 2002 for ODOT was 2,394. 3,223 down to 2,394 in the space of 10 years. Move forward another 10 years. 2011. I look back on the 15 or 20 years when we tried some things today we tried some things then that are actually being implemented in practice today. The time frame sometimes for research endeavors, you try it, you learn it, you don't necessarily get straight to implementation. Maybe the product is not ready for prime time. And we see examples of that. We tested solar array deployments in the right-of-way. It was cutting edge back then. I would say it's still not mainstream today, but you see more and more state DOTs absolutely either thinking about it or actually deploying solar array to extract value from the right-of-way that they manage. The QCQA testing differences between hot mix asphalt and warm mix asphalt. That was in 2011 we studied that. And what a success, because warm mix asphalt is everywhere now. It's readily, and maybe the standard. My materials guys in the back will have to correct me if I got that wrong. Evaluation of the effectiveness of ODOT's cable barrier program. That was another one we studied in 2011. How many lives have been saved by the implementation of that technology across our system? It's just mind-boggling to think of the number of crossover accidents we experienced prior to installing that cable barrier system. And research helped prove that that was the right solution, and now it's implemented across the state. The workforce in 2011 ODOT workforce was 2,379. We were still on a flatter trajectory, but still a declining workforce. Research in today's program, we are still relying on the continuing support of our roadside vegetation management research and training. Our maintenance folks use that resource every year. But we're also still doing materials-based research, investigations like the aging behavior of asphalt binders at different production stages. Also projects, in contrast though, like the ODOT automated bridge survey, using 2D, 3D imaging and ride roughness data to develop a non-destructive and cost-effective approach to determining dynamic impact factor. We're using computer modeling to assess highway grade crossings and intersections to identify hang-ups, potential for trucks, which are horrific accidents whenever those trucks get hung up. We want to assess and enhance the traffic count and highway performance monitoring system program. These are also important, but they look a lot different from the research program of 2011 and 2002 and dates before that. We are participating in regional and national efforts on building information modeling, or BIM, for infrastructure, for bridges and structures, and looking at next-gen travel behavior data collection and processing. Applications of enterprise GIS for transportation guidance for the National Transportation Framework. While there is still a place in the research program for new materials development, for testing and specifications, there is a growing need for systems level understanding and decision support for the professionals who must make key decisions that will keep our infrastructure working. We need better information and tools for decision making. The federal research program parallels this need, and you can see the change in the priorities that all the new technology that is coming at us very, very rapidly, that all of that is bringing. I know the AI panel is coming up next. That's a perfect example of what we need to be doing, is finding a way to use these new technologies to help us make better decisions. The workforce today in 2024 at ODOT is 2,307 as of September 26th, 2024. We are a smaller, leaner workforce. That means more robust partnerships with the university and the private sector. Those aren't optional, those are necessary for our transportation system and all of our success. ODOT doesn't have an abundance of engineers to dedicate to research that can take years to develop. The demands of operating and maintaining and designing the needed improvements for this transportation system that we have today and in the future is our first priority. We will leverage the expertise and ability of our professors, our graduate and undergraduate students, to help us evaluate and make recommendations for ODOT to use. This is optimizing our workforce. And it's benefiting the universities. Our universities are the training ground for our next generation of engineers and scientists and professors. A strong workforce is necessary for our state's success, and strong teaching and research universities are required to make that happen. There is more rigor and more expertise in our research university and more resources available to our university partners, and we will gladly lean on them for their expertise. I believe ODOT is better, the universities are better, and the state of Oklahoma is better as a result of this change in priority and this evolution of ODOT in this modern economy. We see more regional and national collaboration on issues today than I've ever seen before. From our participation in the National Cooperative Highway Research Program to the transportation pooled funds that are facilitated through Federal Highway, where states can come together and study similar problems for each state and really pool their resources, to our successful university transportation centers like the Southern Plains Transportation Center, which we are fortunate here in Oklahoma to have. We are learning from each other, and we're bringing that local knowledge and that local concern into the fray. That's a powerful combination to address those issues. So all of these changes have come, and it's time to start addressing the problems of the future. Some of these just off the top of my head, and I know you could add to this list. How are we going to extend the life of our existing aging infrastructure in a world of smart vehicles mixed with pretty dumb vehicles, right? We have this traffic mix. How are we going to manage and get the most efficient use of this infrastructure in that perpetually changing environment? How are we going to create revenue to fund these needs of transportation infrastructure on a more than 100-year-old volumetric fuel tax that is declining? Because this is a cent per gallon tax, fewer gallons sold means fewer dollars in the revenue stream for transportation. In the most recent forecast, the annual gasoline tax receipts are projected to drop more than 5% per year starting in 2030. The number of gallons of gasoline taxed for the Highway Trust Fund will drop by 1/3 over the next decade. My friends, that's not very far away. How do we address risk and increase the resilience of the system? We need only look at the terrible scenes in Asheville, for example, after the impact of Tropical Storm Helene. The water systems were washed out along with the road infrastructure. These infrastructure systems, while independent, are absolutely reliant on each other, both for the operation and repair of that damaged system, and pallets of water are now being distributed by road and truck to be able to provide drinking water for the citizens of Asheville. How do we prepare for multi-system failures that I think we would be naive to think today aren't possible and actually may be probable the longer in the future we look? We need to be evaluating operations as the complex systems that they are. I'm excited to see how the changes we've made at ODOT by bringing research and development, or research and implementation, or research and technology transfer into the fold with the thought process of innovation and technology. We can drive far-reaching solutions to the complex problems that we face. We must lean in to identify how we can make better decisions using artificial intelligence, like the AI panel is about to discuss, and the other new technologies, that are coming at us faster than we can recognize. I mean, it's every day something new. We still have to deliver on the research and the problem solving that traditional DOT research program has always done, but still embrace these future needs. I believe with innovation and research going hand in hand, we can go far. Thank you for listening to my ruminations on my ODOT experience. I do believe I have a few minutes left, and I'd be happy to take questions or other comments, but that's the end of my prepared remarks. And with that, I open it up. Mr. Kerb. I don't know that we have a microphone for him. Right here. Sorry, if you do have a question or a comment, would you please come up and so the folks online can hear. Mr. Kerb, is that on? Make sure it's on. There's usually a button. Okay, now this is the part where I'm supposed to fill time and space and stretch it out. We have okay, here we go. And we're live.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ron.
So Don, I really appreciate that. That was very well presented, very well written.
Thank you.
A few extra things I'd like to share in my experience is the Oklahoma Transportation Library is an excellent resource, and they have really come to the top. I mean, they may be considered top 5 of a DOT library, and it's very important that we use that resource as much as we can. We have access to basically millions of resources around the world through our Oklahoma Transportation Library. So we have a transportation library connectivity study we've been doing for 5 years. We're going to probably extend it another 5 years with new deliverables, and it's going to be very, very nice to see more done. And there's been like 10 to 12 states participate in that.
Mm-hmm.
It's been an excellent accomplishment. Another
Absolutely.
pool fund study we have led is the one with Tyler Lay at OSU. And it has to do with like frost damage and concrete, and as he says, he loves concrete. And so anyway, it's going to probably extend another 5 years on top of that. So we've already done 10 years of this kind of work. And so the transportation pool fund study is not just participating. It's also that we lead a couple of really good ones for the country. And so
Absolutely.
with that, thank you.
And I have to have a plug-in for the Transportation Library because I too sourced material out of the Transportation Library. So thank you for that, Dr. Molina, and all the hard work of that group. Any other questions? You're losing your chance.
So Don, maybe
There we go.
I have a question that I think you really laid a very historical perspective as to how ODOT has changed. So you have a much leaner workforce, rapidly changing technology, and also what to expect in future. So in terms of workforce development, right, I think would you talk a little bit about how when you started your career, because you participated in the design squad, and now ODOT is expanding that, right? Would you share your thought as to what you expect from this group? Because they are our future.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's super exciting because, yeah, I started in the OU design squad, again, a long, long time ago. And I can tell you I don't know that I would be here at ODOT but for that program. And we kind of lost our way a little bit. I think we de-emphasized it. We didn't put the resources into it. But under the leadership of Chief Engineer Brian Taylor, we're doubled down on that because we do recognize that our workforce challenges are tremendous. We, at this point, need to grow our own, and that's the way we see it. We want Oklahoman students and not just Oklahomans, but we're focusing on getting our Oklahoma students into ODOT through those university pipelines, and then we can keep them and grow them and have them maybe have the opportunity to have a great engineering position in their hometown, because ODOT is everywhere. We are all 77 counties. There are opportunities here. So we recognize the workforce challenges we have. They aren't just in engineering, but obviously engineering is our frontline decision maker role, and we must invest. So we are doubling down. We're expanding those to, I want to say 20 in each campus. I think it was about 8 students when I was involved at each campus. So definitely increasing the span of that, wanting to pursue and grow that. Workforce challenge across the board, that's one of our top 4. And it's not just engineers. It's skilled labor. It's accountants. It's lawyers. It's workforce that we need to be able to move forward. And at state governments, sometimes it's hard to recruit. So we really do want to double down on the EIT program, on the student engineer squad program, and really grow the opportunities for engineers, civil engineers with Oklahoma. All right. I think I'm done. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.